All right, good. Okay, welcome to this week's City Council Club. It is Thursday, July 22nd somehow. I have been not doing a great job of keeping track of what day it is lately. Anyway, we are going to have a special conversation with Will Green from Mode Shift Omaha. But that's going to be kind of sandwiched in the middle of the conversation. As usual, we'll go through kind of a recap of Tuesday's meeting, and then we'll hear from Will about the CIP, and then we'll dive into next week's meeting. So as per usual, just kind of the overall goals with Council Club is to just demystify a lot of the stuff that's on the City Council agenda, and also just talk through stuff. If there's any words that don't make sense, any questions that you have, like this is super casual, so just hop in. It's just kind of like a study group. We all learn together. No such thing as a stupid question. We all, just kind of learn together and dive into it. So with that, I think this is actually the first thing that's on our little agenda. Doesn't even really have to do with the City Council agenda, but we just thought that it was something that needed to get brought up, sadly. Colleen Brennan, who gratefully is no longer on the City Council, has just been appointed to, she's just going to be an alternate, but the Douglas County Zoning Board of Adjustments. I just don't want really her to be anywhere because she's really kind of rude and hateful and not very welcoming to participation. So I just thought that needed to be kind of brought up. Actually, Scott put it on the list. She was actually, so there's a question about who she was appointed by. It looks like Marianne Borgeson was the one that submitted the application. Scott, you want to talk about that a little bit? You kind of dug into the application, but it seemed like similar to last week, we talked about how Ben Gray applied for the land bank and his application was incomplete. Also seems like Brennan's application was incomplete, which is.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, so the vote, it passed 6-0. Mike Boyle was absent, so all the other commissioners, and it was on the consent agenda, which there was like 10 or so other things. It did not get talked about. It sailed right through. Colleen Brennan was sitting in the audience, but then looking at the attachment, it was submitted by Marianne Borgeson. The form looks incomplete. It just says Colleen Brennan for this position, a bunch of stuff left blank. And then Colleen Brennan's application was also incomplete. Very similar again to Ben Gray's application said, you must fill out these such and such a things. And there are two questions on Colleen Brennan's application that are incomplete that seem to be quite important. And so just her term, this new term as County Zoning Board of Adjustments, goes until December of 2023. So it kind of feels like it's a done deal. I don't really know the process of getting someone removed from an alternate position. We did hear that she was the only applicant. So I guess two things would be, we need to start watching for when these positions become available. We heard that there's a vacancy on the Parks Board. And then getting people to apply, because if no one applies, then this is where we end up. And then the other thing is the Douglas County Board of Commissioners has, at their meetings, they have a time slot that's for citizen comments. And so they're going to be meeting next Tuesday and the Tuesday after that. And if anyone wants to go and talk to say that how badly they messed up and that this appointment is going to be a shame they should all be ashamed of appointing this person. That, I mean, some of the reasons that Ben Gray was not necessarily denied, but the reason that Ben Gray was, people don't want him to be on the land bank, was because people voted in District 2 and they voted for Juanita Johnson. And I'll remind everyone that when not only was Council Member Brennan the shortest city council member, she also was the biggest loser, meaning that no incumbent in the entirety of the city council since 1956 lost by the biggest percentage. So talk about the voters of Omaha did not choose her. She's never been elected. And now this is her second appointment to a city or a county position. I just feel like if the same things that got Ben Gray to, or at least for the city council to lay over Ben Gray's appointment, which is actually coming up on this meeting on Tuesday. I feel like the same thing could have been said for Colleen Brennan. So I don't know if we're going to be writing a letter. There's certainly, if you go through Colleen Brennan's tweet, she still has up the tweet telling Cammie Watkins to thank a slave owner for democracy. I think that that's one of the most shameful things, and that was said while she was still a council member.
Yeah.
So
I think that, and I don't know if you maybe said this and I blacked out, but you can talk about anything, whether it's on the agenda or not at Douglas County, which is different than city council. City council, you have to speak to an agenda item. At Douglas County, the Board of Commissioners, you can talk about whatever. If we were in town this coming Tuesday, I would probably go read some of her tweets and be like, cool that you appointed this person who is hateful and racist and not making good decisions. And clearly Omaha doesn't want her to make decisions for us. So why did you appoint her? Again, the issue is there were no other applications. It's upsetting. We should probably keep moving because we got a bunch of stuff to cover. Any questions on that, I guess, before we go? I do see a question about what her duties are as an alternate and how often do alternates actually assume active roles? I have no idea.
no, we heard, I think Marian Bergeson was already saying that it's not an important role and that she's only the alternate, kind of just like, don't worry about it. So it's like, no, it's like, it doesn't matter if she never actually has the position, but the fact that she was appointed, it's just it's a slap in the face to all of us that care about these kind of things.
Yeah, everyone else has a job. Maybe I should have applied. I don't have a job. Okay, so we're gonna move on because there's a lot more to talk about. So obviously the mayor presented the budget and CIP. It was notable that this year there was not anyone in the audience that was like booing or telling her to F off or anything like we saw last year. I don't hope for that exactly, but I do hope that we have a really great turnout on August 3rd. That is at 6:30 p.m. Where they will be having public testimony. There are a few times where they actually move the meeting to be more accessible for the masses, and this is one of them. So it's not Tuesday at 2 p.m., it's Tuesday at 6:30, still at City Hall. So a little bit more accessible for folks that have, a 9 to 5. So we'll kind of get into the CIP and budget details a little bit in a minute, but you're gonna say something?
No.
Okay. The Warhorse Casino got TIF, of course they did. It did pass 6-1. I do have to give like a tiny virtual high five to Don Rowe for voting against it, because he said, I thought I don't know him that well yet. But he once in a while says some stuff where I'm like, okay, maybe I'm not going to just write you off altogether. Maybe you've got some good ideas. And the fact that he said that TIF is a good tool. He actually campaigned on TIF, but he did think that this was kind of a silly use of it. So I was proud that he voted against it. Anytime there's not just a 7-0 rubber stamp vote, I like to just applaud folks for thinking and just not rushing everything through.
And this TIF, so we've heard that Warhorse Casino is coming back for multiple TIF asks. We think Exarban did the same thing. When Exarban Village was getting TIF. And so they were pretty smart in that this first TIF ask was mainly for public improvements on Q Street. And so not for the casino or the casino itself, but just for the public improvements. And Amy Milton kind of said like, I really don't want to support a casino, but that she drives on Q Street and that these improvements will be for everyone, even for the ones that don't go to the casino. And so that's pretty much what everyone kind of basically said, that it's all about the public improvements, including Bob Stubbe, who said that that Q Street is not on the CIP, but that it is in need of being repaired or upgraded. And so he selfishly said, I would approve this project just so that we can get a better Q Street. And I feel like Don Rowe's reasoning for not wanting it was basically, he's like, I know that it's going to improve Q Street, but it's going to benefit this casino. And he said that his constituents were telling him, why should we give a tax rebate that's going to benefit a casino? Like, they don't need the money. And they kept saying for those that follow TIF, the but for, specifically Amy Melton said that it's hard for her to fathom that this wouldn't be built but for this TIF. So everyone was like saying this place is going to be gangbusters, and they kept talking about how many jobs and how much future tax revenue. And what they didn't say is the House always wins, and how much money is going to be lost there, and how rich they're going to get off of this. And it's all about jobs and Q Street. We're going to repave Q Street. It's going to be the quickest street in Omaha. So.
One thing that I liked was how, and I read this, I think the World Herald did an article about this a little while ago, and they said that the last, time a casino has asked for TIF anywhere in the nation, they got laughed out of the room because of course casinos don't get TIF. And then I'm like, haha, you're not in Omaha, clearly, because in Omaha we give TIF to everyone.
So we think this might be the first casino in the nation to get TIF.
We don't know. If anyone can fact check us, always, please do. But it's kind of what it sounds like. Yeah. Always the first and the most exciting.
Leading the nation.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else on that?
It was pretty interesting how Dobb stood up and had a very he was a very strong opponent for the Warhorse Casino TIF, and he actually made fun of the address requirement, the address waiver. He was just like, I love giving my address. I'm proud of where I live. And we're like, yeah, you are a public official. Like, you had to give your address.
And a rich white man who can do, like, you own the city or whatever.
And you also probably get police protection as a former mayor. So, yeah.
And he went way over his 3 minutes. And Festerson is, now that Festerson's the president, he supposedly is enforcing the time, but he's not. And he did say, okay, you've only got 3 minutes. And Dobbs like, I'm not probably going to get it in 3 minutes. And he's like, okay, but try. And Dobbs like, no. And just like kept going. Anywho. All right. Anybody have anything to say on that? Otherwise, I think
so what was with the Warhorse? There's somebody that's working for them who was talking about they shouldn't build in Bellevue because it would offer too much competition and dilute the Nebraska casinos. I forget who it was, but they were saying that there shouldn't be competition with the Nebraska casino. Like, he was self-serving. We shouldn't build other racetracks and casinos now. On top of getting TIF, they want no competition.
I must not have paid attention to that part, but
I remember reading that in the paper and I was thinking, what? They don't want any competition. Anyways, I thought it was kind of silly to say that.
So much strangeness. All right. I think Will Green from Mode Shift Omaha is here to talk with us about the CIP. Mode Shift has been talking about CIP stuff for pretty much the entire decade that we've been talking about stuff. And we have been also sort of aiming for a CIP team of sorts, because we know that it kind of informs a lot of the work that we do. So without saying too much more, I will turn it over to you, Will. Thanks for being here tonight.
Yeah. No, thanks for the invite. Happy to be here. I think I'll probably be focusing pretty much entirely on the transportation element. But as people know, CIP includes parks. You see police stations, fire stations, other public facilities, libraries. But sort of in the Mode Shift vein, just going to be mainly focusing on the transportation element. But for those of you who know the CIP, it's been, the transportation element has been very road widening focused for many years, and that certainly is still the case with this update. So I went through it, and Sarah, do you allow people to share screen?
Yeah, sure.
Give
me just a second to not mess this.
I can kind of show folks a breakdown,
Oh, Jesus.
get a sense for what's in there.
Did I click on his deal?
Yeah. See, I always don't do this right. I'm gonna just make you the host. I know that's not the way I'm supposed to do it, but you can just make me the host when you're done doing.
Okay.
And also, did you say what CIP stands for those that don't know?
Yeah, Capital Improvement Program. So the idea with the CIP is these are like long-term, 15-year plus infrastructure projects. So projects and buildings and infrastructure that are intended to last more than 15 years and cost more than $20,000. So that's sort of in the 20,000s in the charter. And then I think the 15 years, like from state law, but that's the definition of a capital improvement project. And so really, it's really the mayor is the central figure in the creation of the CIP. So The mayor is sort of chairs there's a task force. There's a priority committee made up of Stubbe, Fanslaw, the planning director. Stubbe's the public works director. Todd Fitzer from Public Works. You've got Kevin Carter from Planning's in there. So a mix of people, Derek Miller from Planning, put it together. But basically, the planning director collects all the capital projects that each department request. And I can admit people, Sarah, if that's okay with you, as the host.
Yes, please.
And so really the CIP is a forward-looking document. You have a new one every year, 6-year forecast. Nothing in the CIP is guaranteed to be built. As we know, there's been some good things in here in the CIP that have been removed. We had the Market to Midtown Bikeway, I think it was in the CIP 10 years ago, if I recall. I wasn't in Omaha at the time, but I've heard that from mode shifters. And it got taken out, sadly, just under construction now. But so it's good and bad. The good side of that is there's some terrible projects in here that we still could potentially get removed, that we should advocate to have removed, road widening projects. Are you all seeing the spreadsheet? Okay, cool. Yeah, so really focusing in on, like I said, the transportation element, and then so sort of the criteria that I was looking at this, is it a pedestrian focused, traffic calming focused, bike lane, protected bike lane? Basically, is it a mode shift priority type project, or is it sort of the opposite, a road or intersection widening project? And so those are the projects that made it on this spreadsheet, and really just trying to compare the two. There's additional projects, there's bridge replacements that don't widen the road, so that's not in here. But this is the bulk of the transportation element of the CIP that you're looking at, and you can see sort of the mix here. Column D shows what's road widening, and F is your sort of road diets, your traffic calming, your protected bike lane. There is not a single protected bike lane in the CIP, which that alone I think is a huge problem. There certainly are a few good projects in here. The Little Bob, I included the truck bypass in North Downtown because that's really intended to help foster a pedestrian friendly district up there. And then you really get into the West Omaha road widening, and just the scale of the dollars is pretty astounding. What's planned, and then so total road widening $136 million if you include intersection, which I think we should, because that certainly impacts all of us as pedestrians and bicyclists and drivers. $173 million. And then being somewhat generous with this number, in my opinion, because I included the truck bypass, your total road diet, traffic calming, pedestrian investments is about $29 million. So that's a 6-to-1 ratio of sort of car-centric road intersection widening to sort of pedestrian traffic calming, protected bike lane investment. And that is a reduction. That number was actually larger last time around, and the reason for that is a lot of these terrible projects are under construction. A lot of the road widening is sadly under construction, and so that's not in this current CIP. Not surprisingly, most of those dollars going out west, 72nd Street and west, 71%. And what's interesting with our Market to Midtown Bikeway, the protected bike lane on Harney from 10th Street to like Dewey Park in Midtown, we know now that from that project, it's about $250,000 a mile for protected bike lane. That's not it's not really like a Cadillac version of a protected bike lane, but it's a solid protection for bikers. You got flex posts, you got parking, and then the travel or the carriageway. And so it's certainly way better than what we've had anywhere else in the city. Huge step forward, and that is extremely cheap compared to what we spend on road widening. Of course, it's only a pilot. Our road widening projects are not pilots, but the good stuff are pilots. So but I think it's interesting to think about, so we have that cost, what could we do in Omaha as far as our protected bike lane network to really vault us ahead as a city. Even with, so you take one project, say that 192nd and Dodge interchange, you could, for that, the cost of that project, you could build almost 85 miles of protected bike lane, which would absolutely put Omaha, on the map internationally as a bike city. I think I saw an article, Minneapolis is around 40 miles today, and they're sort of a leader in the Midwest. Kansas City set a goal of, I believe, 35 miles in the next 2 years of protected bike lane. And so it gives you a sense, if we just took one of these terrible projects, the intersection improvement, they call it improvement, but intersection widening project, we could be talked about, nationally as a leader. It wasn't in the transportation element, but also important to note, I think it was in like the facilities portion. This is probably the biggest story coming out of this release of the CIP is massive increase in spending on parking structures. This number really should blow everyone away. $129 million for car storage is in the CIP. So that's astounding. That's an $86.5 million increase from last year's version. So something has happened in the last 12 months where, who knows exactly where it came from, but through the mayor, a massive choice to go towards car storage parking structures. So there's a lot in here. I think that one of the other big takeaways is what's not in here. Like I said, not a single protected bike lane. There's one road diet, Leavenworth Street from 7th to 13th, sort of that's by like Thunderhead, or Thunderhead down by Old Market Loss. So you got one. We used to have a great Leavenworth road diet plan for around like 40th Street. That would have been a really great step forward. That was taken out of CIP I think 2 years ago. We did get the 24th and 30th Street road diets were built. We could talk about how well they actually executed those, but they did take 4 lanes down to 3 with unprotected bike lanes, painted bike lanes. So a step in the right direction. But the focus is, or the priority is clear. And so when you hear people in Omaha's leaders talking about the direction we're headed, you got to look at the dollars, and it's very clear. The direction we're headed right now is more and more deeper and deeper into car dependency, car centric city. This is just going to drive more car centric land use, an urban or a built environment of strip malls and wider highways. And to me, I'm passionate about climate change. This document is tantamount to climate denialism. This is should not be acceptable to us. And so, like Sarah said, Moshe's been working on this for a while. I think sort of taking some of the way we built the missing middle housing campaign, sort of a grassroots organizing and coalition building effort, starting to put together an effort around the CIP to actually advocate for a better CIP that does focus on traffic calming, road diets, protected bike lane network. And so this is really just getting started. Alex O'Hanlon has been a big part of the start of it, and a few others. We're hoping to have a founding partner be one of the key neighborhood associations, because we really want to bring their voice forward. We believe they're going to support especially the traffic calming element of this effort, and they're a powerful voice at City Hall. And we also want to make a strong case for sort of the equity element. So we need to be making pedestrian investments in neighborhoods, the most vulnerable neighborhoods where people walk and bike out of necessity. not not road widening that basically just subsidizes suburban sprawl out west. So that's like I said, just at the start of this effort, the best way to get involved today is become a member of Mode Shift Omaha, and we can plug you right in to the effort as we form this new team. And I can throw into the chat that link. Reach out to me, reach out to Sarah. I think Brian, I know you've expressed some interest. Alex O'Hanlon. And so we're going to use this August 3rd council meeting as an opportunity just to sort of, we're not organized, nothing's formal yet, but this is a chance to, to make, have some public comment in front of the decision makers, and sort of introduce the concept of this document's unacceptable, needs to be dramatically different. And I guess, so attend August 3rd, 6:30 City Council. And maybe just before I close out, just give people a sense sort of what, if you haven't looked at it, this is straight out of the CIP. This is just one of the road widening projects. This one is going to cost $27 million, 168th Street. But taking this, this is what it looks like today, to a 4-lane with a median. So this is your Omaha Speedway.
We're not seeing that.
Oh, you're not seeing that. Oh,
your
okay.
spreadsheet.
Thanks, Brian. Thank you. I'll change it here. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is
Yeah, I see
168th Street. Cool. Appreciate it, Brian. Yeah. Road widening, pretty typical. This one, you can see the total cost on there, $27.3 million. So here's what it looks like today. Here's where we're going. And yeah, happy to talk more about this. If you have questions, I'll throw the Mode Shift membership chat, and I'll pass it back to you, Sarah.
Awesome, thank you. We are, oh geez, I don't know what I did. I'm trying to add, so as far as the bikeway situation, it's actually, I think, 250,000 for the entire length of it, which is 1.5 miles. So it's not even 250,000 per mile. It's more like 166,000 per mile. So those numbers would go even farther. But yeah, the point is, wow, do we have a strange set of priorities that, doesn't line up with a lot of the other supposed initiatives that we say that we pretend to care about, it's upsetting every time. And so I guess the way it goes now is, yes, we will all, David, like you said, we've got 3 minutes to summarize our thoughts on like 1,000 pages worth of documents that we have like 2 weeks to read. So that's a bit of a stretch, but pick a part that's important to you, and try to summarize your thoughts. But I mean, the short story, like Will said, equity is a huge issue. We know that most of the money is going out west. Liz, I liked your question about the percentage of the population that lives out west. It's disappointing. I do know that Festerson said he was going to commit to asking for $3 million to go into the CIP for protected bike lanes. So I'm excited to hold him to that. I also think that we should encourage more than just him to get behind that. Gratefully, a lot of us come from different districts, so we can all, maybe emailing your own city councilor ahead of time to make sure that they know some specific thoughts. But then I always do think that in-person testimony is a powerful tool. So if you can do both, that's great. The other thing is, if you have more than 3 minutes to talk about, you can say your 3 minutes. Again, it's Festerson. We'll see if he cuts people off. I imagine he will, because I think there will be a pretty good turnout on the 3rd. But if you don't get through your entire testimony, you can actually submit the remainder of it to the clerk, and that'll go into record as well.
There is that the Festerson 3 million. Is that something we can talk about at the publicly support that at the council meeting, or is that not?
I think so. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
planning on it.
I mean,
Yeah, I think we should.
Okay.
So that's one of the other kind of goals with this group, is to, like, when we hear a council person say something that we like, we're going to make sure that you follow through on it. You know, the accountability piece is really important. So yeah, I don't know if it was during the election or what exact meeting it was. Do you remember?
I want to say it was about the Harney Street.
It was, but I'm
was-
just trying to remember when he said it. But anyway, he did say it for sure, and he said it publicly. So yes, spread the word. Let's thank him loudly for that brilliant idea, and then make sure that it happens. The thing is, so hypothetically, Festerson, you know, tries to make an amendment to this budget and say, okay, great, but let's get 3 million earmarked for more protected bike lanes. First of all, the mayor can just say no, veto, no, not going to happen. Or, which is even a little bit more heartbreaking sometimes, they'll say, yeah, sure, put it in the CIP, and then we'll be like, yay, tiny victory. And then it'll be like, oh, just kidding, that somehow disappeared without any conversation, because the Harney Street cycle track has already been in a CIP years ago. We as ModeShift advocated to get it into the CIP in the first place, and then it was removed without discussion. So, you know, they'll put it in there to sometimes appease us, but then if it actually stays and is built, that's when we get excited. When it gets into the CIP, that's, you know, a step, but we know better than to get too excited about that. So it's just always such a fun, we talk a lot about how it's really hard to stay hopeful sometimes, because it's like, we know even when we work really hard to advocate for certain things, it's like, does it really matter? And even if it gets to this point, will it get to the next point? So I'm always I'll believe it when I'm riding in it, as far as bike lanes go, but not to be too negative.
And then Will, with the 130 million for parking, does it say where those parking lots are going to be, or is it just, are they going to be public?
They will have to be public.
Yeah, it's
I
good
think.
question. I didn't I could pull up that portion. That number came from the summary page. There's like a table, new parking structures under public works projects, 129 million, but I don't think they have at exact locations identified.
Well, some of that's got to be the 37th and Farnham. There's going to be a new Blackstone building with parking on 2, 3, and 4, 400 spots. So somebody else was going to build it, and the city was going to buy the parking portion of that building.
The city is so addicted to parking. It makes me sick. I don't understand why we don't know how to walk.
If I remember the
instead of
price of 37th and Farnham, the city was going to pay something like 45 million or something to take over those 400 spots.
Yeah,
Whoa.
and I know that in the new innovation hub coming up that UNMC is doing, the city is building a parking garage for that development as well.
In addition to the one that we just saw proposed, was that in last
Yeah, I
week's
think
meeting
the Saddle Creek, TOD,
Yeah.
1,400 stalls, if I remember correctly. And it's actually the biggest structure on the building,
on the campus?
on
Yeah.
the campus.
I think that might be the same one.
Hmm.
It's gonna,
Gross.
yeah.
On Dodge Street, basically.
Yeah,
Like,
right on Dodge Street.
That is, and
On
TOD
Farnham.
meaning transit oriented development, which hypothetically would mean we don't have to worry so much about parking because we're right on the orbit line, but yeah, again.
Yeah, I feel like we gotta press the city and developers harder on that.
Yeah,
On just like reducing parking or not giving money to people who aren't.
right. It's just bonkers to me. And I mean, when we talk about housing and affordability of housing, we know that parking minimums drive costs way up there too. So it's like, as long as we continue to build for people in cars and just car storage, we're going the wrong direction. So I don't know what it'll take to get our city to start understanding that this is not sustainable, you know, environmentally or financially. You know, like I almost, again, don't want to give up on the climate change like fight, but Omaha doesn't seem to care about that. But what they do care about is money. And so if we can show them that they're actually being wasteful with this money and they could make more money off of building housing with, I don't know. I just think we have to talk about their pocketbooks rather than the climate, because that's probably the sad reality of it. I don't know. All right. Anything else? Any other questions for Will, or just about the CIP or budget stuff in general, or how to testify?
Right. So if is this CIP part of the budget, or is this a discussion that is just coincidental to have this week?
The CIP and budget are all like the thing that you'll be able to testify for or against or whatever on the 3rd.
So if we don't win any arguments this week, what happens? All of it goes through.
The council votes on it, I want to say on the 17th. So they'll at least have, a few weeks to digest all of our thoughts and testimony and then vote in a couple weeks. But yeah, generally, like last year, there was a lot of discussion around police funding. And I think there will be again this year. We talked with KP from OAR last week. There was like a little bit of movement from Jerem to rearrange some money. That certainly didn't go through. And even Festerson's more meek proposal of some of the general fund or the slush fund, the extra of the general fund going to mental health, that also didn't get past Stothard's desk. So unfortunately, with the strong mayor form of government that we have here, it really is kind of up to her. Unless they would so overwhelmingly vote against her that it would be veto proof, which is extremely unlikely.
And then Dave, I feel like you've been around these or have seen more of these. Do you ever recall a time when a budget was amended and not just rubber stamped? Because we were just reminiscing about when Carlos got written, the bike ped coordinator position got written out of Gene Stothard's first budget in 2013. And Sarah tried to stop it, and they
Mode shift
tried to stop it, but there was I don't even know if there was an attempt for an amendment. But last year there was 2 amendments. They didn't pass. Does anyone remember ever an amendment on the mayor's budget even passing, or has it always just been rubber stamped?
I don't remember anything. Nothing comes to mind in my history. So the city council generally is not interested in being a legislative body. So that creates a problem in just letting the mayor and the mayor's administration run amok. There isn't any desire to set limits or to have accountability. So if you put something in the budget or the CIP that you approve and then it doesn't get done, nobody is interested in calling the Public Works Department to account for that. Because again, there's this idea. There was a time back in the 80s when there were fights between the city council and the mayor's office. When Hal Daub was mayor, there was a lot of conflict between the city council and the mayor, and everybody got a bad taste in their mouth from that. And so since then, it's been like, well, if you don't like the mayor, vote for somebody else, but it's not the city council's responsibility to hold the mayor to account for stuff, because then we fight and it's unpleasant for everybody, and we don't like that.
It's not Nebraska nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So really, the only way to change this process that we're all talking about here is to, one, vote a progressive into the mayor's office. That's the best. And then vote for progressives for city council that are willing to fight with the mayor. Or to at least give the mayor feedback and have a mayor that's interested in having feedback from somebody who's not just being a yes person and agreeing with everything. That's and really, if you look at who votes in the elections, who shows up and votes in the elections, and who gets elected, the vast majority of these benefits that we're seeing in the CIP are going to those people that show up and vote. So, unless that changes, the process isn't going to change.
Yeah, no, I was doing the math. Stothard got roughly 47,000 votes in this last election, and Omaha's population is about 500,000. So less than 10% of Omaha's population voted for our current mayor. Less than 10%. That just seems like that's not a mandate. She can't say that a majority of Omaha voted for it. I mean, a majority of registered voters that are people that voted in the election, but it's just like less than 10%. So yeah, I think we need to.
That's why they want to keep the municipal elections separate from federal.
Yep.
To keep turnout low and her in power. Blech.
Right.
Okay, cool. So great. All right. Well, that was depressing. I guess anybody else want to say anything else sad about the budget, or should we talk about the really sad things on this next week's agenda?
There's some positive things.
That's why I love you. You're always so optimistic.
We should jump. I'm just jumping ahead. We're going to jump to so Council Member Begley, who he's actually not that bad. He's on the Exarban Elmwood Park Neighborhood Association Facebook page, and he's been talking about the Verizon 5G pole that was put in the middle of a sidewalk at 55th and Poppleton. And he actually dug into it, met with the homeowner, met with the neighborhood association, talked with a state senator, John Kavanaugh, about, which is in that district as well. And it's actually, it's interesting to see him doing work and to sort of being held. I mean, in a roundabout way, he's saying that it's not the city's fault that the governor passed LB 184 and basically took the power away from the city and gave it to the state. And so telecoms have the upper hand, and that there's nothing that the city can do about these 5G poles going in. But that he called, can you click on this? I guess I have my own notes.
Yeah.
What was the term he used? It's ridiculous. He said it's ridiculous that a pole is allowed to be placed, but that the law allows it, and that it's not, even though that it's blocking the ADA sidewalk, but it's legally allowed at the state level. But he's going to try and fight it. So they're talking to the city law department, the lobbyists, and with State Senator John Kavanaugh, and that Begley's going to be at a coffee shop this Saturday at 9 a.m. if anyone else wants to talk. So yeah, he's doing it. He's doing a good job. I mean, more than
in this case.
Yeah.
I'll just pump the brakes a little bit.
Okay.
I do appreciate your enthusiasm, but I also do know that some folks on this call even have had very little success getting him to respond at all. So while he's doing good, we'll give you a little pat on the head on this one,
Yes.
Begley. But also your job is to respond to your constituents. So that's what
And the
I'm
reason
saying.
that this got brought up was, so number 24 on this week's agenda, AT&T is putting a 90-foot broadcast tower on Western Ave at 61st. There's a church there. It's actually about a half mile from Council Member Festerson's home. So this is literally, I believe that the tower will service UNO and basically Fair Acres neighborhood. Our governor will probably be using this tower on his, and so there is going to be a public hearing and a vote. So I feel like one thing that we're learning with the council club is kind of learning how to talk about things that aren't on the agenda, but we still think they are important. And so this poll at 55th and Poppleton is not on the agenda, but there's another poll. And so I feel like it's, as long as we're talking about polls, if anyone wants to talk about the 5G and specifically this sidewalk issue, and to give Begley a pat on the head and say thank you for,
But also, what is this vote even about? If they're going to say, oh, we can't do anything about it, it's up to the state. Like, why are we? I mean, that's, I guess, my question. And we've had a busy day. I haven't read through all the attachments and every word on that. But did anybody dig into that a little bit more to see even what this is a vote about? Because if in one case we're saying, oh, well, there's nothing we can do at the city level, the state already did it. But then yet here we are trying to vote on whether or not we're going to allow it.
So it looks like they're replacing a poll as opposed to, or it's something to do with replacement versus new. And it's not Verizon 5G. This is just filling in current, again, I guess UNO they lost the tower. And so this is something about replacing it versus
a whole new one.
Yeah.
The other thing, when we're talking about state law, ADA is a state law. So this is not allowed because it is breaking a law about accessibility. So I don't know. I have a lot of feelings about this one, but
yeah.
we'll see how it goes.
All right,
And
back
yeah,
to doom and gloom.
if anybody does go and testify and can sneak in something about the pole and the sidewalk on 55th, I will look forward to watching you do that on a recording because we're gonna be out of town. Anyway, all right.
I should learn about it because 55th and Poppleton is like right over there. I can see it out my window.
Yeah. Did you say how did we learn about that one?
No, I should go and learn about it.
Oh,
because
yeah.
It's right over there.
Yep. Yep. Definitely have been there, talked to the news. Sweet little Jane who owns the house is not happy. All right. I thought this one was exciting. Will Green, have you looked at the item number 18? Some rezoning happening in Keystone, and I do believe it involves an ADU. I don't know if that happens very often. It seems like it doesn't. And so this is considered a carriage house, but they're rezoning it so that they can build it. I didn't know if, since we got you here, do you have any insight on the latest ADU battles?
I saw Aaron Feitinger tweeted about that. I think it might be the same ADU, but what she was saying was pretty substantial opposition from some of the neighbors.
That's what I have
If
in my
it's the same
notes.
one.
NIMBY.
Is that okay? Yeah.
Did she tweet about that today?
No, it was one of her great threads.
From
probably
the
like
previous meeting?
week and a half ago.
Yeah, I was at that one. So yeah, we were actually texting
Okay.
in between tweeting. That was a wild one. Yeah, that was very bad. That was like,
Okay.
and that's why this one caught my eyes. Like, ooh, they're increasing density. What's that going to be about? But the developer that got railed by the like NIMBY neighborhood folks was about wanting to do like condos, and this is actually just a carriage house. So I don't think it'll be the same type of opposition. But I did put on there, beware of the NIMBYs, meaning not in my backyard, in case anyone doesn't know what NIMBY means.
Right. You
so
should note that the lot size is approximately 40,000 square feet. So it's much larger, and they're just asking for 1,000 square foot house.
I just thought
the carriage house. I'm trying to click on the agenda item right now. But
yep.
Yeah. It's tough because it starts with pro, right? So we don't really know if there's going to be sort of a NIMBY presence until the pro public comment opportunity is gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, it might be something if people are up there talking, just if you want to throw in a pro comment on ADUs, accessory dwelling units.
Yeah, that is kind of what I was thinking. Here's the plan. So you can see that the little proposed single story, just over 1,000 square feet, but it was just kind of cool to see. I think they called it a carriage home or something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just thought that was, oh well, it doesn't matter.
The carriage house is like above a garage.
Yeah. I think well, whatever they called it, an additional rezoning. I don't know. Anyway, I thought of you, Will, because it seemed the closest thing to an ADU I've seen in a minute.
Every small bit helps. I mean, on housing. I mean, we need it desperately. We are absolutely entering a housing crisis in Omaha. So it might seem tiny. It's a ADU in Keystone, but we need it. We need a lot more like it. So
yeah, I'm just going to be interested.
And it's good for the council to hear people supporting it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking is like, if you're looking for something to testify positively about, just say, hey, I like that this is a thing that I'm starting to see here. So that in the future, because, there is hopefully going to be more rezoning happening. Hi, Manny. And we will have to probably battle the NIMBYs at some point. It's just going to keep coming up. So I think the more we can get in front of it, the better.
Okay, so for those who don't know, the zoning codes are 1 through 4 versus 5. This request is to move from an R2 to an R5. And the reason why is because R1s through 4 are single family detached. And when you move to an R5, other opportunities open up to you. So this person here has found that it's just easier to rezone himself to an R5, skip the single family altogether, just to get that ADU built. That's what kind of hoops people are jumping through to get ADUs in this town.
Awesome.
That's great point. Great point, Brian. I mean, you shouldn't have to rezone to build an ADU. And that's, I mean, Brian is leading the effort with the Missing Middle Housing Campaign on that. I mean, it should be an allowed use in all residential zones. And that's what, you know, the leading cities are doing. Our peer cities are doing that. We're getting left in the dust on that. So the fact that a landowner has to rezone is ridiculous for an ADU. And you have not only that, but R5 to build an ADU, you would need a lot size of 40,000 or in that range, because basically the use is essentially a duplex that they're going to be using. And I'd have to look at the minimum lot size for R5, but it would be extremely difficult to do that in a lot that wasn't as massive as that one.
Cool. Thanks for the input, everybody. All right, we will keep rolling. It's somehow already almost been an hour. We just kind of breezed through a lot of the rest of the stuff on here, but a bunch of stuff around Dundee Days, liquor licenses for outdoor music stuff. That's like 32 through 35.
I'm just looking forward to Festerson asking each and every one, like, hey, are you going to have my favorite drink on tap? This is in my district. You know, what are you going to do for me? Or how, yeah, I feel like every time there's something in his district, he's the only one that seems to make a point of just like, hey, do you want to promote your business? Or yeah,
that is
So,
nice.
I look forward to that.
Gives them the opportunity.
Cork and bottle, hoppy taco, and a bowlie. And that's August 21st. Outdoor music and liquor.
Good luck to us all. All right. 42, we aren't, you know, there's no opportunity for public testimony. That was already last week, but I'm sure will vote. It'll be interesting. I like to see what the vote split looks like, but it's more TIF from Blackstone. Not a small amount. That's number 42. Number 55 is about MAPPA, which, you know, it's some weird city MAPPA agreement, but I did want to take the opportunity to say that there is some good news happening at MAPPA. Mike Helgerson, who has been a long time friend and ally of Mode Shift and just like overall good guy, is now the new executive director. So I'm hopeful. It's like kind of exciting sometimes because we get little glimmers of hope with like folks that are rising through the ranks to positions of leadership in you know, not necessarily City Hall, but Mike Helgerson's a good one. So I'm excited about that.
Hey, Sarah.
Yeah.
Can we just roll back to the CIP for 1 second? I was just thinking, the Chamber of Commerce just put out a big public statement about future trends in Omaha transportation. And I'm interested to know how that aligns with the CIP in terms of goals, and whether or not that might be a useful strategy for attacking the CIP.
Great point. I kind of thought about that too. And then I thought, well, as the article said, this is just a good idea from the chamber. The chamber has a lot of good ideas. A lot of entities have a lot of good ideas. MAPPA has good ideas. A lot of different entities have good ideas, but the city does not actually act on a lot of them. But I do agree, Dave. Yeah, I think it's a good strategy to point out, like, look at all this stuff that just seems like a lot of studies have gone into, pointing to these are the things that the city and the citizens want to see. And these are the things that other cities have already done. And we're getting left in the dust in these areas. And here's an opportunity to get us up to speed, or at least make some sort of an attempt, rather than just continuing to widen roads. But yeah, there's a lot of documents that the CIP doesn't align with, as Liz was saying here. It's just like one more opportunity, though, I guess, to point out more, you know, studies and plans and documents that point to not the way that we're doing things. I think that is a good point.
Then what was the Metro announcement? I know that's not on the agenda, but
yeah, Metro just put out today some good news also about the 24th Street corridor for their next priority, to whether or not it'll be orbit. It might just be improved service and amenities along that corridor, but that is definitely good. Transportation master plan is legally supposed to align with it. It doesn't align with it. That's exactly right. There's just so many things that don't line up with all the other plans and documents and studies that we've done. It's like, I don't want any more, almost said it didn't, flipping studies, because we've done a lot of studies and we don't implement the studies, and they're all just like plans on shelves. And until we get some of them off the shelves and into reality, like, I don't want another damn survey. All right, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Anything else on those items? Metro and MAPPA, good news though. That's there. We'll stick with that. We studied the studies for effectiveness. Stop it with the studies. We're gonna ignore that and move right along. Number 56, rental assistance. That's good. Also good news. We are not ignoring some unhoused folks, so that's helpful. I think it's like $400,000.
And it looks like, is it CARES Act or CARES Act adjacent?
I didn't read that part. I don't know. Did anybody? read
It
that?
seems like a carryover from the rental assistance from before.
Reasonable.
Yeah.
$60,000 for liquor in the golf division. Items number 57 and 58. I think they're each for 60 grand to different liquor distributors. That's where we're prioritizing our money.
Yeah, I didn't understand it. Like, are we? I don't understand why. It's specifically at the parks. Each park gets like 30,000 or 15,000 for liquor. Like, are we paying for it twice?
I think there's two different distributors, and they're just, I don't know if they're saying this is how much you can buy in a year. I'm not really sure what's
it's a
happening.
lot of booze. 120,000 in booze.
Yeah, it's a lot of drunk golfers. I feel like we could be
They sell that to the golfers.
right.
And
That's
are you
a
allowed to
perfect-
drink on the golf course?
Yeah.
What? You're not allowed to drink in parks
Unless you're a rich white guy with a
unless
golf
you're
bag.
golfing. Wow.
Yep. Yep.
And you buy it from the parks.
Right.
You
Yeah,
can't
but
be wild.
they have a clubhouse, right? They have a bar in the clubhouse.
I hate golf and have never
Yeah.
been, but I believe that is accurate.
Yeah.
All right. I wish Mark Brennan was here tonight because he was real fired up about the NP Dodge flooding and FEMA and how we're spending millions of dollars, or over the course of the time it'll be millions of dollars, on something that we know is just going to flood again. And here on this very agenda, there's going to be over $1 million. Some will be reimbursed by FEMA, some will not. The bulk of it, over 700,000, is for redoing the like soccer fields, which again, we know we're just gonna flood again. So why are we just throwing $700,000 at a problem that we know is just going to show back up the next time there's a big storm? I don't know.
On that similar point, like I think it's agenda item, it's earlier in the, I can't remember which, but it's earlier, it's the 77th and Dodge. And there's like a lot of rezoning there and mentions that it's all in like a flood fringe zone.
Yeah.
So I guess just like another example of the city spending money on, I mean, they're not spending money on it right now, they're just rezoning it. But it's just another example of like allowing something that's going to cost money down the line.
Yeah.
So there's multiple examples on this agenda alone of the city making poor decisions when it comes to climate.
Excellent point. Totally. All right. Speaking of bad decision making, the Ben Gray Land Bank appointment is back again. Sorry, Manny. I love your reaction.
You don't have to say sorry to me. It's entertaining. I'll say that.
What do you think is going to happen? Is there? I mean, there's no testimony this time. It's just going to breeze right through.
I have no idea. You just stay tuned.
Yeah.
They need the supermajority. They forgot it last time. So this time it specifically says they need 5 votes for it to pass. So
Yeah,
and
that was a lot.
we already had, it was 3 that voted against and 4 that voted for. So you would need 2 to switch to get it, or either way,
One to switch.
1 to switch to get
Yeah.
it approved, 2 to get it denied.
I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be exciting. We shall see. I don't feel like Palermo's switching. He was like, I'll vote all night. I'll stay. It's fine. Obviously, Johnson.
Okay, here's my bet. You want my
Tell
bet?
us, Manny. Yes.
My bet, and I don't know any of these people really, but I think that Danny Begley will just switch.
Was that who voted last time?
I could see that happening. He did make the statement, though, last time that he thought he should side with the counselor from that district, which I respected about him. So if he stays the course, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it was Johnson, Palermo, and Begley were the 3 that voted to deny. So you're thinking he's going to switch to vote for.
We could all email our counselors and say, hey, what are you doing? Like, you're about to vote on this thing. Like, how much clearer can it be from the people that you supposedly represent? You're supposed to make decisions on behalf of all of Omaha, even though you do technically have one district you're looking out for specifically. But like, come on, there's so many other folks to choose from. This is insulting. Just an idea, in case you're already writing to your council people. All right, what else? Over $1 million in police uniforms is item number 62. I think that's the last thing on our list. Did anybody have any other points to talk about, or items that jumped out, or questions, or anything? Nothing? Oh, Dave. Oh, you're leaving. Bye, Dave. Happy houseboat shopping. All right, cool. Well, I'm gonna hit stop recording then, and then we can continue chatting.